Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode on the Lessons from the Game podcast. I'm joined today, as usual, with my co-host Ben Pegna, and today we're going to be talking about the biggest rivals in the game of rugby, in the history of the game. South Africa, the Springboks versus the All Blacks, New Zealand. But before we get stuck in, Ben, how are you doing, brother? All good your side?
Yeah, good G. What about you? How's Toulouse?
Man, great, man. Nice and cloudy for a change, so I'm actually enjoying it. Nice and cool, but ready to get stuck into this conversation.
Yeah, me too. A big game this weekend, obviously, and there's been a lot of hype already. People have been talking about it. They've been talking about the fact that the All Blacks haven't lost at home in Eden Park for 30 years, or something like that, 1994, I think it is. But I thought this was a great opportunity just to get. I'm speaking to a former Springbok international World Cup winner, which you play down quite often, but you've also been a player who's been and toured and played against the All Blacks in their own backyard in Carisbrooke in Dunedin and beaten them. You've gone there and won. So I thought this was a brilliant time to just ask you, from a psychological point of view, from a lessons from the game point of view, as a player, how do you approach this type of big match? Do you do things differently? Is it just, is it like any other game, or how do you do that? How did you approach this type of game?
Do we have enough time, Ben? Do we have about 60 to 70 minutes? I'm joking.
Mate, I know you, man. You've probably codified it. You've broken it down. You've analysed it. You've reviewed it. You've thought about it a lot, man. Probably, and and then re-implemented what worked and got rid of what didn't work.
Okay. So, Ben, to ask a great question, I think maybe to firstly give you my point of view, how I experienced that game and how I prepared for the game. Like, firstly and foremost, I was coming a year off after not playing in the final in the 2007 World Cup. I was really proud that we won that World Cup. From the personal point of view, I was very disappointed not playing in that final. And Jake White made his choices, which I respect, and he made the right choice. Oosterhout was massive for us in that final. But this game against the All Blacks, when I approached that game, Ben, it wasn't about, let's see if we can be the first team to beat the ABs in Dunedin, or we haven't won a game in the House of Pain. In the House of Pain, there was the stigma around it. There was this aura around it. The All Blacks are unbeatable. I'll be honest, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even care about that. All I was caring about is proving a point. I wanted to show that I belong, that I deserve to wear that jumper, that number one jumper, that I was deserving of it. Not just for myself, but for my community, for my family, my parents who have sacrificed so much. So all I was focused on was just the task at hand. And that was, what do I need to do to perform this weekend? What is my job? What is my role? Because I can see the hype everybody's making about the Eden Park test match, and it's going to be impossible. I'll be honest with you, and that was 2008. And even back then, our mindset as a team was, let's just do our job. If everybody can do your job, and that's the same language that guys like Victor Matfield, John Smith used over and over. Said, guys, just do your job. If every single player does his job and we accumulate all those efforts, then it can give us a really good opportunity to beat all. But it's also about the rival. Forget about home or away. Being part of an AB Springbok test match is special. These are two nations that were born to play each other. And these were the words of the legendary Sean Fitzpatrick, which he said in a bathroom to me in the 2002 Under-21 World Cup, which I bumped into and I was like shocked. Anyway, that's another story. But it is special, and it's great to be part of this. It's a tradition. It's a traditional rugby game, because for the purist, South Africa and New Zealanders, we are unique specimens. So this is going to be a special game, no matter whether it's in South Africa or whether it's in New Zealand. And I'll be honest with you, if we take into consideration the way things go in the modern day game, you can win anywhere. You can win anywhere, whether it's home or away. The mindset of players is that we just want to win. And our mindset back then was like, what do we got to do to win? And, we need to get ready. We need to cement our position in the team. And that was my mindset. And that was also the case, Ben, for so many other players in the team, like Ricky in January, and luckily he had that big chip kick he caught and bounced and allowed us to win that game. But I remember that game. it was tough. And when you're in that game, you're not even thinking, okay, I'm playing in New Zealand. All you're thinking about is the battle. You're thinking about the grind. You're hitting a brick wall. You're thinking about what you can do next. And all you want to do is just, you want to do your best so you can win that game. And I still remember the satisfaction of winning that game. Blood running down my face, and I had this big smile, and I was just so chuffed. But small anecdote, Ben, in the build-up to that week, I had a call from, actually it was the night before the game, I got a call from Corey Flynn. So he wasn't involved in the test match, and he called me up. So I'm like, dude, what's going on? He's like, mate, just a chat, just see how things going. I need to have an important conversation with you. So I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm not going to give you any secrets or anything like that. And he says, mate, what are we doing after the game? And I was like, dude, just let me be. Let me just play the game first. I'll send you a message afterwards. But yeah, Ben, that was a special week. And obviously it was rewarding to win that game. But when you're preparing for games like this, you try not to give too much importance to the venue or the whole, how can I say, hype that goes around.
Gee, there's some great insight there for the players that are listening. You know, we on the Lessons from the Game podcast, we talk about these lessons that people have learned, like you and me and other coaches and players and other administrators, and have taken into their life or they've carried on utilising. And I guess one of the messages and lessons that keeps on coming up is that sort of the work ethic, the discipline, the humility and things like that, but also controlling those processes and controlling those controllables, which is, I suppose, what you've just spoken about. You can only control, and you're concentrating on the next job. And I think as well, you know, we've spoken about this a bit in the past, but quite often I think people overhype it from the outside, whether that's the journalist or the spectator. They read too much into it because they sort of want to, and it's natural for humans. But as the player there in the midst of it, I get what you've just outlined is that you're aware of the occasion, but you're still going through the same processes that you would do in trying to keep it as normal as possible and keeping your feet on the ground. One of the other bits of hype that has come up this week, talking about journalists, talking about things and spectators, they've talked about Sia Khaleesi playing, but he's not being the captain this weekend. And we understand that that's because Jean-Luc Depree was going to play, and so Sia has come in, and there might be a really clear process behind what the coaches have done there, and they probably don't want to change too much. But what's your thinking about that around, how does a coach do that and deal with that during the week? Do they stick to what they've done and back the players? Or does it really matter who the captain is? What would their view be?
Look, I think it's for everybody to understand in terms of the construction of a team. Each team has its leadership group. And each leader has a specific role. And that's very important. If you look at the amount of experience that the Springbok team has, you've got Willie Leroux, you've got Andre Pollard, you've got Pieter Steph du Toit, you've got Eben Etzebeth, you've got Damien Dalende, Jesse Creel. Wow, that's amazing. Because these are experienced players. These are players that have been together in good times and in bad. So they are all aligned. They are all synchronized. And being a captain in a team like that is just a label. Yes, it might potentially represent something bigger, but if we're talking in the pure sense of dynamic and how everybody's doing their job and executing their roles, everybody's complementary. So if you look at Sia's not captain, from my point of view is that I can see Rassie Erasmus. What was the most important thing for him this week is to give the team the best preparation possible for this game. And what was that? Was to announce the captain. It wasn't even sure that Sia potentially would have involved. We don't know. We don't have all the information. But the team comes first. And this also just shows the humility of Sia, because we haven't seen any signs or anything going on that he's upset not being captain. That's also the sign of real leadership. A leader that doesn't have an ego. Because in a leadership group, and if you're the captain, I can talk from John Smith and Victor Matfield, two great captains that I've played with and had the privilege of playing with. John Smith, when you have a strong figure like Victor Matfield in your team, there's one of two ways it can go. You either work together or you don't. And people might have thought there might have been a clash of egos, but there wasn't. Because John Smith, he knew how to bring those leaders in. He knew how to rely on Victor Matfield, on Farid Dupré, on Brian Abana, on Mornay Steyn. And it was the same with Victor at the Bulls. He did it with Farid, did it with myself, he did it with Gary Botha. We all had our unique set of roles. So I do believe, I think it's great for Springbok rugby, the fact that Jesse Kriel is captain this week, even though Sia's on the field, because we all know what Sia brings, what he stands for, not just as a human being and what he means for South Africa, but we saw that first 20 minutes against Australia. He played like a human being that was possessed. So he can inspire through the way he plays as well. So maybe that's also a good thing. Not having that pressure of making decisions. Is the team okay? Is everything right? Maybe shifting that responsibility to someone else for this game so that he can just focus on being the best version of himself. But leadership is important. People need to know that whether you're in the corporate space, if you're a coach and you're not listening to your assistant coaches, if you don't want to get their input because it always needs to be you coming up with the solution, it's always you creating the strategy, it's not going to work. And you've got way more experience than me in the corporate space. A team is only as strong as its leaders, plural, not one leader, leaders. And that's why I believe that this game is actually going to be brilliant because you've got Eben Etzebeth, you've got Peter Steftetoi, you've got all these amazing players, Ben. So, yeah, that's just my 2 cents on the whole situation of Sia not being captain. I think it's a great thing for him as a player and also as a human being, but also great for Jesse Kriel because, firstly, unbelievable man, great rugby player, and we also need to develop other leaders in the Springbok team.
Yeah, and I think that last point is actually a really interesting one, and one I think it displays also a growth mindset because you flip it on its head. You go, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to develop other people, to give them more responsibility, to see how they do in different environments, and I guess the third part of this conversation I wanted to ask you about. Again, it's people outside the environment will be talking about how significant this match is because of the history, because of the rivalry, because of whatever records. And they will be talking about it as well because of momentum. And they will talk about things like this is in the middle of World Cups. What do you think? Is it sitting directly, massively 2 years out from a World Cup? How important is this as a crossroads game? How do they look at it? What's the significance of it? Is there any significance?
Yeah, Ben. So I'm going to put my coach's hat on right now because you just mentioned their crossroads. Both teams have been under pressure and been criticized in the media, so that comes into play. We have seen when a team is under pressure, sometimes it influences the choices of coaches, selection, because they're just trying to keep the public happy. And let's be honest, being a coach of New Zealand or South Africa, that's intense. With that comes a lot of responsibility. But if I have to take from a coaching point of view, for me, this game is an opportunity to really take stock. 1, 2 years away from the World Cup, do I have the players that I need to win the next World Cup? 2, do we actually have the right style of play or game plan or different variations of our game plan to actually go win the world? What type of rugby should we be playing? Because it's not a question of testing. You want to be battle ready in 2 years' time. And you've got to ask, there's a lot of questions that I as a coach would like to ask. My experienced players that I have that are 30 plus, do they still have enough juice in the tank to go all the way through? If I see enough in them in this moment, then it goes on to the next question. How should I manage these players over the next 2 years so they can be at their best and they can optimize their performance? And then it goes also to the younger players. The younger players that are brought in, do they have what it takes? Are they showing me enough? We're not looking for perfection. Some players have been criticized for their performance, some of the younger players, but they've been selected again because that shows as a coach, Rassie wants to see what is there because you can't just rely on certain key players, Steph du Toit, Cheslin Colby, If injuries come, we need to know that we have enough depth in the squad. So for me, this is an opportunity as a coach to do an audit. Where are we at? Mentally, technically, physically, strategically, and tactically. Those are the pillars we always talk about, Ben. So I'm very excited. I know this game is being hyped up because a lot of people are saying it's the biggest game since the 2023 one. Maybe not. No, we'll probably say that next year. All right, it's going to be the biggest game before the World Cup. But I think it comes down to that. If you look at South Africa, what the Springboks mean for the country, and with social media, a lot of things just takes its own, how can I say, pace and just goes with it. People go viral and stuff like that. But people are just passionate about the game. I think that's why there's so much hype. But from a coaching point of view, I'd be a little bit nervous, but also a little bit excited because I need to know what boxes I need to do. Do I have the right staff? All those type of questions. So this is a great opportunity for both teams, the ABs and the Springboks, to really take that little time to do that little audit.
Gee, that's fascinating. It's really good. I think, for the listeners today, we've given insight into what it's like to be a player playing in against the All Blacks in their own backyard, and it's the psychological element of that and the processes. As a leader, what does it mean, from a captaincy point of view? And then finally, just now as a coach. And I think, there's parallels in those elements, whatever level of the game you're playing in. As a player, you're playing away and you're maybe in the 5th division in England somewhere and you're busy with your work, your normal day job, but you're an amateur player and you're going away, but it's your biggest game and it's away from home. And it's the same principles. It's, do I focus on these processes? How do I control the controllables? And with as a coach and as leaders with captaincy and things like that. So thanks for your insight, G. Awesome to hear.
Thanks, man. I think, Ben, just maybe to leave the audience, the players, when it comes to big games like this, there can be a lot of hype around it. But don't get caught in the hype. Yes, it's a great opportunity. Always be process focused and not outcome focused. All right? The results will take care of itself. If you do what you need to do, if you're doing your job, and if you're in the game, as we always say, if you are building your innings with patience, having ability to be conscious of what's happening in the moment, in the game. If you make a mistake, resetting, bouncing back, next job, that's the main thing. But if you're going to get submerged in all the hype and all the pressure, you're just adding pressure on yourself. But if you just say to yourself, and let's be honest, you can't just say it's another game. But if you say, if I do X, Y, and Z, I will get that result. But don't just think about the result, because that will take care of itself.
Cheers, Jay. Right. That's awesome insight. Thanks, man.
Pleasure, brother. And just want to say thanks to Ben for asking some brilliant questions today. All right, I'll be passing the buck soon on one of our other short form episodes. And Ben, by the way, some brilliant stuff I'm seeing on social media. You just spoke about kids going back to school. Definitely looking to talk about that. I think you shared some great gems. So please give Ben a follow on Instagram as well. And Ben and I, we both have launched our own personal communities on the great platform called School, where we are sharing loads of content. And we've also created the group for the podcast. We'll share more about that in the future. But in order to help us grow the show, please like, follow, and subscribe. Help us to grow the show. And most importantly, if you want to get access to our communities, just send us a DM on Instagram. Send the words community or school. And Ben and myself, we will send you guys the links. But Ben, brother, it was great to chat with you. And thanks for the questions. You put me in the hot seat for a change.
Cheers, G.
The roles will change the next time around. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks, man. Thanks for your insight.